11 o'clock by my watch, so let's go ahead and start. Good morning, everybody, and I'd like to welcome you to the final session of our first ever Professional Development Committee virtual Zoom contract roadshow. Today we are covering benefits and more, but first, some introductions. I am Lawrence Arias. I am a BSA for TSS, assigned to Department of Tax and Collection, and I'm also honored to be your Sema Executive Board Second Vice President and Chair of the Sema Professional Development Committee. Now, as you all know, the contract was approved by 98% of the Sema dues-paying members and has been ratified by the Board of Supervisors and went into effect May 4th. And hopefully our members are seeing the raises posted on their paychecks this week. So if you haven't already done so for these sessions, kindly please make sure to log in with your full name so we can respond promptly to your questions. Also, kindly please rename yourself by right-clicking on your name on your picture or video. So please be advised that questions submitted by unknown users will not be considered. Now, I would like to introduce our panelists and presenters. First, our presenters, Zeb Feldman and Adam Cole. If you kindly please introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, Zeb Feldman, Sema OE3 Senior Business Rep. I've been with Sema for, just a little over 8 years now, and I was also on the negotiations team spearheading this particular contract, along with Lawrence and others, so thank you.
Thank you, Zeb. Adam? Oh, you're muted, Adam, sorry.
Adam, you're muted.
Sorry, everybody. This is Adam Cole. I'm the Sema Business Rep. And like Zeb said, I was a member of the negotiating team.
Thank you, Adam. I also see we have Rebecca Armendariz, who's also our OE3 Sema Business Rep. Rebecca, do you have a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Rebecca Armendariz. Like Lauren said, I'm a business rep for Sema OE3, and I've been on board since July.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Now, I see we do have, I'd like to introduce the members of the Sema Executive Board. I see most of them are not on here, but I would just like to call them out. We have Dolores Morales, Carla Collins, Jim Piazza, Donna Menzimer, Jessica Castaneda, Jennifer Hubbs, Laura Romero, and last but not least, I do notice that Robin Rivas Romano is online. So Robin, do you have a moment to introduce yourself?
I do. I am Robin Rivas Romano. I work for Social Services. I am a member at large for the Sema board, and I was on the negotiations team.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. I would also like to mention members of the Sema Professional Development Committee, which includes myself as chair, Dolores Morales, Donna Menzimer, Robin Rivas Romano, but also the following members who I notice are not online today: Teresa Chagoya, Sandy Monsees, and Vihar Patel. Thank you to everyone there. Now, as members of the Sema negotiation team, you've already heard from me, Zeb, Adam, Robin, but also included on there are Dolores, Jim, Donna, as well as Dennis Brooks, Don Cieslik, Joanne Dobrinsky, Dennis Stotsberry, and recent retiree Eleanor Stetson from PhD. Before I hand over the reins to Zeb, I did just want to mention to everyone, thank you again for being here. Thank you for being in here early. Now, I'll have Zeb explain the format for this session, but if you would kindly please turn off the video for your, if you're not presenting, kindly please turn off your video and put yourself on mute. That way we make sure that only the presenters can be seen and people don't have to switch windows to see the presenters. Okay, thank you so much, Zeb. I hand it into your capable hands.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Once again, Zeb Feldman, Sema OE3. I think most of you probably know me, but just so everybody is aware, as Lawrence said, we're going to be talking about a little bit about the format and then jump right into the contract language itself. So the format is clearly a Zoom call. Just as a reminder, this is being recorded. So why I want to make sure that everybody is aware that it's being recorded, one is fair notice, but two, so that you all will be able to view the end product of this along with the other videos that we've recorded for parts 1 through 3. So far, we've had more than 1,000 views across those 3 platforms, and that's excluding the hundreds of people that have already participated in actually watching them live the first time. So from our perspective, we're getting a lot of participation and value out of recording these presentations. While of course we want, as Lawrence pointed out, we want to answer your questions. Please, it's very helpful for everyone if you post it in chat directed to everyone. While we will answer questions that are posted privately, it helps everyone be on the same page if you share it with everybody. So that way, as we go along, we can not violate any confidences, but also answer everybody's questions that are published. So please do that if you put it in the chat. Also, you'll see that periodically we're going to be posting documents. We're going to be doing a screen share shortly as well, so that we're actually going to be going through the documents. You could see Rebecca just had some instructions there. And then that way we'll be able to make sure that everyone has the documents that we're looking at. Right now you'll see posted in chat is the final contract. You can download that there. We're going to be going through it as well, and we're going to be having a screen share. You're going to see that we're going to repost the same thing several times. The reason being that individuals who join the Zoom chat midway will not have access to prior posts. So we're not just spamming the chat channel for fun. We're posting it every 10, 15 minutes so that if someone comes in late, then at least we're going to see them be able to access the same information. Also, you can see our participant count is climbing. Normally, we start off a little bit lower. The past meetings, with the exception of the first, we get somewhere around 100, 120. The first was significantly higher than that. So kind of depending also as well on what we're covering. Today, we're covering a lot of important topics that I think will be of interest to all of you, including leaves, which I know is a big hot button item for everybody. Medical benefits, which I think explaining that will also be helpful. And then a little bit drier things like state disability insurance, which hasn't changed much, but then also how to access those professional development allowances and make sure that you capture the maximum money for you. So, oh, I see Lawrence's cat has made an appearance. So. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop right in. Adam, is there anything you wanted to add before we throw some text up on the screen?
Yeah, just for anyone who's in this for the first time, what we're going to be touching, we'll be hitting not just the sections that have changed during the recent negotiations, but every part of the contract. That we will be calling specific attention to those sections that have changed. We have a number of sections today that have some substantial changes in the current contract, like the leave section, like Zeb was pointing out. What we're going to be doing as we go through it is hopefully clarify and disambiguate any of the languages we read through, then provide any context, anything else you need to know to understand the language, and then finally give kind of an explanation, what does this do in effect and practicality for our members or for the county if it's language they have in there. Like Zeb mentioned, if you can be asking your questions while we're talking about each section, we'd prefer to try to answer questions before moving on to the next section, so that when we post this on YouTube later, all of the content, for example, about section 14 is all in one place, as opposed to having some questions that are answered at the end of the video. So feel free to ask your questions while we're talking, and we'll try to get to them before moving on to the next section.
Great. And also, Adam will be sharing his screen. I may as well. Hopefully we're doing a good job of making it a readable format so that you'll be able to, will be large enough for everybody to read. If there's any issues as to what's being displayed, as we mentioned, if you're confused, throw it in chat and we'll get to it either on the spot. If it's something like, it's not big enough, I can't read it, then we'll increase it on the spot. If it's a more nuanced question, then we'll hit it at the end of each item. So you can see the agenda. In fact, when I take a break or Adam's posting something, we can post the agenda as to what was published in the e-blast as to what we'll be covering today. So we're only covering a portion of the contract. We're not covering the entire contract. However, each of the videos covers approximately a quarter of the contract. So if you watch all the videos, you will have a full reading of the entirety of the contract. So we were charged by the executive board to go line by line through the contract, and line by line is probably an exaggeration, but to really go dive deep into the contract. So there'll be a lot of reading and explanation of the contract language. So let's just go ahead and start off with Article 14, which is STO and sick leave. STO stands for scheduled time off. Colloquially, many people refer to it as vacation, but it is officially referred to as STO. And before I even jump into this, STO is our one unified bank. So for many of you who supervise 521 folks, STO or others, right, RMPA, STO is a broad category that covers everything that you might see in other units. So for other units, you might see vacation, personal leave, and a birthday holiday. We have combined all of those banks into one called STO. And don't let that fool yourself. We still have more STO than even 521 has for those three banks combined. I know that sometimes it sounds like it might be more because it's three separate banks, but it's just arithmetic. Put the banks together, add up the hours, and then you can really get a fair view of what it is. Okay, scheduled time off. The parties agree to have scheduled time off program, which covers all former paid leave. STO bank accrual. Each employee shall be entitled to annual scheduled time off. Scheduled time off is earned on an hourly basis. For purposes of this section, a day is defined as 8 hours, 8 work hours, effective the first pay period following Labor Day, September 4th, 2006. Holidays shall be separated from STO and paid as they are observed. If an employee is required to or assigned to work on a holiday, she shall have the option of taking an alternate day off at a time mutually agreed upon by the appropriate supervisor or receiving an STO add back for 1 day. The accrual schedule shall be as follows. And then it lists. As you can see, the more senior you are with the county, the higher your accrual rate. But before we leave that topic, I just want to mention a little bit of important things about the STO add back. So as is noted, it's built assuming an 8-day schedule. For those of you that work a 410 or a 980, you still get the same benefit, but it's just calculated a little differently. If you have specific questions, Adam, Rebecca, or I can answer it about how it applies to your contract. Probably 90%, maybe 80% of our members work a typical 40-hour work week. I understand you're salaried employees, so you may not work, you may work more or less than 40 hours. And it's built around an 8-hour workday. So that's typical for folks. But do remember, if you have to work a holiday, pretend this coming Monday, right? It's a holiday. Pretend you have to work that holiday. You are entitled to have an STO add back of 1 day. And you want to make sure that you receive that. So work that out with your boss if for whatever reason it's required that you have to work on that day. A separate STO bank. Any STO hours that exceed the cap when it is lowered will be placed into a separate leave bank and the hours will be available to be used as STO. The separate leave bank will have a sunset date in 20 years from June 25th, 2012. However, unused hours in the bank cannot be lost. Excess hours and a few additional hours will be moved into the separate leave bank so that employees who are very near but not over the reduced cap will not immediately be at the cap in the first pay period. So the principle of this is that we establish a one-time overflow bank. For those of you that have been here for a little while, you will recollect that in the 2008 through 2010 downturn or financial crisis, however you want to characterize that, we had furlough days, and that created some people having excess vacation times. So we established a one-time bank so people wouldn't lose any of that time. We have historically done that as well on a case-by-case basis. If for some reason somebody's required to take time, as you may have heard from our e-blasts, we are currently doing that in the midst of this COVID crisis for individuals who are working beyond the for people who are essential workers and have run up against their vacation max. So for instance, let's just say you're a first-year person and we scroll back up. If you could scroll back up for a moment, Adam, to the table. You see how you have 57 work days on the far right there that says you can only accrue, I shouldn't say only, it's still a huge bank. You can accrue 456 hours, right? Let's pretend you're at that max today. And because of COVID-19, you can't take vacation. So that's what we're establishing. We want to capture that time, create a separate bank and put it in there. We have verbal agreement with the county to do that. We need to get that in writing and actually get that executed so that we have a separate bank so you're not losing time. But that's an example of creating a discrete bank. C, pre-scheduled usage. Scheduled time off may be used for any lawful purpose by the employee. The time requested shall require the approval of management with due consideration of employee convenience and administrative requirements. Again, here we are going to be diverging from contract language. And what I mean by that is we're just going to be providing advice. We hope to we will be publishing a little Sema recommends blurb next to certain portions of the contract where we want to provide additional advice, but it's not operative contract language. So here's some advice I'm going to give you on this. Take it or reject it as you will. It typically doesn't benefit you or anybody to explain to your boss why you want to take the time off, right? So generally you want to say, hey, I'd like to take off, April 4th through 8th. And I'm giving you 5 weeks notice. Please note that. The reason why I generally advise, and I think Adam and Rebecca would agree with me, to not state the reason why is that then it becomes this competing priorities list with the boss, right? Oh, I need the time off because of my daughter's wedding. Then someone else says, well, I need the time off because of my kid's graduation. Someone else says, I need the time off because of my husband's soccer tournament. So now the boss is kind of like, well, what's more important, the wedding or the graduation? And really, it should be order of which people have submitted their requests. Same thing with sick time, which we'll get into in a moment. So that's generally the advice. I see there's some questions coming in. We'll address those in a moment when there's a convenient place to pause. Scheduled time off, bank carryover. In the event the employee does not take all the scheduled time off to which entitled in the succeeding 26 pay periods, think a year, the employee shall be allowed to carry over the unused portion, provided the employee may not accumulate more than 3 years' earnings, except. So that 3 years' earnings references that hourly cap in the table, right? That's why it changes year to year based on your accruals. Except when absent on full salary due to work-related compensation injury, which prevents the employee from reducing credits to the maximum allowable amount, or in case of inability to take paid leave off because of extreme emergencies such as fire, flood, other similar disaster, an additional accumulation may be approved by the county executive. That's exactly the situation we find ourselves in now. The COVID-19 crisis is a national emergency. It qualifies under this language. If the appointing authority does not provide vacation for an employee sufficient to reduce accumulated STO balance to the maximum allowable balance permitted, the employee may take vacation as a matter of right immediately before the end of the pay period in which the STO would be lost. So this applies probably to everyone, not everyone, but it applies to many people throughout some point of the course of their career in the county. They're running up against their maximum, and they inform their boss, hey, next pay period, next Friday, I'm hitting my max. I'm going to lose 4 hours if I don't take vacation. This language says your boss has to approve that time off. Now, what it doesn't say, but what the boss is also reasonably allowed to do is say, you're right at your max. Sure, I'm going to approve your day off, but I don't want to be in this position every pay period. So I'm going to ask you to take a week off at some point in the next month so that, you get below that maximum and we can't just trigger this automatically. Think if you're many of you are supervisors or managers. It becomes very difficult and unwieldy to run the unit if you just have people saying, oh, I'm off Thursday, I'm activating my thing. You can't do anything about it. We have to have some ability to plan. So just be aware that your boss and you as a supervisor can ask folks to take additional time off. This applies to us and other bargaining units as well. Scheduled time bank payoff. Upon termination of employment, an employee shall be paid the monetary value of the earned scheduled time off balance as of the actual date of termination of employment. So this is the law. It means that if you're separated, your accrued vacation bank gets paid out immediately. And it is paid out at your earning power at that time. So generally that's good for people. Typically when they are thinking of retiring, separating from the county for whatever reason, you're probably at your highest earning power in the course of your career. Not always, but probably. Now we're going to shift away from STO or scheduled time off for a moment and now talk about sick leave. Oh, actually, before I move to sick leave, do you think this might be a good time to look for some of those questions?
There's a couple of questions that
Sure.
From Sandra, what if we're required by Command Center to work on weekends, in person, or on call? Is there any add back PTO?
So yes, or there should be is I think the correct answer here. So if, for example, you're required to work more than your 40 hours, then flex time, which we haven't talked about yet in this section, flex time should be contemplated where any salaried employee can flex their schedule, right? If you're still required to work multiple hours, then that's where ATO kicks in, or administrative time off. And you should request administrative time off for that. This is also something that we're going to be talking to the county about for recognition of individuals that are working these excess hours to get an add back. So please talk to your boss and try to get that. If your boss says, forget it, I can't imagine this happening, but let's say they do. Forget it. I know you've been working 60 hours a week for the last 5 weeks. I'm not approving any STO when this is over. I'm not giving you any grant of ATO. Then you want to talk to Adam, Rebecca, or I, because we need to get involved and make sure that you have that recognition. Contractually, we are somewhat weak on that, but politically, I would say we're pretty strong in those conversations. And then very clearly here, if you're required to work a holiday, you automatically get the time. It's just a question of when you take it. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, and I think there were some other questions coming through, is that right?
No, the other one I answered privately.
Okay.
It was specific to that person.
Great. All right, sick leave bank accrual. Each employee shall be entitled to an annual sick leave bank accrual. Sick leave is accrued on an hourly basis and computed at the rate of 64 hours per year and may be, 64 hours per year and may be accrued without limitation. The accrual factor per hour is 0.03, etc. And the accrual factor per full pay period is 2.462. So sick leave, unlike STO, there's no escalator to this. It's static from your first day of employment to your last day of employment, and this is the accrual rate. And also there's no cap. So some people have literally half a year of sick time at the end of a 30-year career, and it's just on the banks, right? We'll get into how it's paid out in a little bit. But it's time that is yours. You can integrate it, and we'll talk about that. Prior contract history. This is historic language, so just be aware of that. 4 days, 32 hours of sick leave were converted into the STO accrual, leaving employees to accrue 8 days, 64 hours of sick leave instead of 12, or 96 hours. These additional 4 days of STO were integrated into the STO yearly accrual rate, section 14.1A. So many, many years ago, before my time with Sema, before Lawrence's time, I think maybe Robin was a member at that time, Dolores was on the board. We swapped 4 days of sick leave, reduced our sick leave by 4 hours or by 4 days, and increased our STO by 4 days. And that's where the first day sick came from, which now we've happily shed. So we've kept that benefit of swapping sick time for vacation, which people want because you can schedule it and because it's payable at 100%. And we've been able to eliminate the first day sick sort of confusing language that many of you wanted to have eliminated. Family care usage. An employee is entitled to use 1/2 of his/her annual accrued leave in order to care for a sick or injured member of the employee's immediate family requiring care. Immediate family shall mean the mother, father, grandmother, grandfather of the employee, or of the spouse or of the domestic partner of the employee, and the spouse's son, son-in-law, daughter, daughter-in-law, the employee's brother or sister, or any other person living in the immediate household of the employee. This is a pretty broad definition of the immediate family, and it allows you to use this half of your sick leave benefit for kin care, what's often called kin care, for folks that are in your immediate household. Oftentimes, there's some nuance to using this. If there's an issue where you're ill and your family member is ill, you absolutely don't want to trigger this clause, because that will be tabulated, and I don't want to say held against you, but it will be counted towards your maximum usage of sick leave. So if you're ill and your kid is ill, as an example, don't call in ill and say, hey, my kid is ill, I have to take care of them. State that you're ill, assuming that you both are, right? Because you don't want to have that counted against you towards this usage. A doctor's note. Request for sick leave with pay in excess of 3 working days must be supported by a statement from an accredited physician. Management may require such a supporting statement for absences less than 3 days. So as a practical matter, this is not required over 3 days. You'll say that a request for sick leave, there could be a request for sick leave. It's not mandatory. And you are able to do it for less than 3 days. The reasons typically for doing it for less than 3 days is if there's a pattern, right? If every time there's a Giants game, you're calling out sick, then someone can put that together. And even though it's a 1 day absence, they might say, okay, well, you've been sick the last 10 Giants games. I'm noticing a pattern, even though it's only 1 day at a time. So that's an example of where you might be able to request that. Bereavement leave. This sadly is when a member of your immediate family dies, passes away. Leaves of absence with pay shall be granted employees in order that they may discharge the customary obligations arising from the death of a member of their immediate family. Immediate family, it's the same definition as before. I'll read it again. Shall mean the mother, father, grandmother, grandfather of the employee or of the spouse of the employee and the spouse's son, son-in-law, daughter, daughter-in-law, brother, sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, or grandchild of the employee or any person living in the immediate household of the employee. Up to 5 days with pay shall be granted. Just to be aware, these don't come from a particular bank, okay? The first 2 days shall not be charged to any employee bank. So it's not deducted from STO, not deducted from sick leave. If necessary, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th days shall be charged to the sick leave bank. So those are charged to sick leave. Up to an additional 3 days, 2 of which are chargeable to sick, and the 3rd not charged to any accumulated balance, is authorized if out-of-state travel is required. So if you do have, so that's key. If you have to go out of state, then this portion triggers automatically. Otherwise, you may have to request up to the 5 days, which I found is frequently granted. Okay. Rebecca, please feel free to just jump in if there's questions pending on that section, on particular sections. So sick leave bank payoff. Upon death, retirement, or resignation in good standing, an employee shall be paid for any balance in the sick leave bank at the following rate. So you'll see that for the approximately first year of service, or excuse me, not year, for the days of service, it starts out at 0% and then it caps out at 50%. And these are days of service, so it takes years of service to get to the 20%, right? And then it's an escalator from there on up to a full 50% after a full career within the county. So this is also a reason why converting sick leave to STO is typically a good idea for our members, is because then it captures 100% of that value. Okay. Reinstatement payback. Employees receiving a sick leave bank payoff in accordance with Section F may, if reinstated within 1 year, repay the full amount of sick leave bank payoff received and have the former sick leave balance restored. Repayment in full must be made prior to reinstatement. So think about it. So that just means that you can buy back that time, right? So you leave the county because I don't know what reasons, right? You thought you wanted to retire, and you find that you went on your cruise, and boy, you're getting restless. You really like that community work you were doing. You want to come back. There's a position open for you. Your department hires you back. Now you can say, okay, well, you cashed me out of my sick leave for, I'm making this number up, $15,000. Here's your $15,000 back. I want my sick leave. And you get your sick leave. And it also has the benefit that unless it's an odd situation that you're totally capped out on your sick leave, it would continue to accrue in value too. If let's say you put in another 3-4 years, that at 30%, then it goes up to, let's say 38%. Now that sick leave is worth a little bit more as well. So this just allows you to do that. The next item, H, STO Cash Out. This is a very popular item. Actually, from negotiations, I think we learned about 280 people use it per year. Does that sound right, Lawrence and Adam?
It was a little more than that, but yeah, only a few hundred.
Okay, a few hundred. So we get a lot of questions about it. So that's why I'm sort of characterizing it as very popular. But with the relaxation to the language, I suspect a few more people will make use of it, but we'll see. We don't have any data on this yet. So STO Cash Out, there are some good changes here. Employees who use no more than 24 hours of sick leave for a period of 1 year, beginning pay period 1901, December 17, 2018, through pay period 1926, December 15, 2019. Think approximately a calendar year, and each December to December period thereafter during the term of this agreement, May 4th, 2020 through June 23rd, 2024, shall be allowed to cash out 40 or 80 hours of STO for no more than a total of 80 hours. Eligible employees shall submit their request to ESA Human Resources during the month of January, and payment shall be made during the month of February. Sick leave charged for any purpose, i.e. bereavement leave, is used to determine the STO cash out eligibility. So this is a significant relaxation of the requirements. If you remember with the first day sick, previously, if you accessed your sick leave, you would have to use you would be eligible to use less cash out, right? I'm probably wording that inartfully, but you wouldn't be able. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, with the previous language, any use of sick leave would immediately cut your ability to cash out STO in half, and then after 2 days you would lose it entirely. So like Zeb's saying, part of the change needed to be made here, particularly because of the removal of first day sick. The previous version of STO cash out was kind of written with that first day sick in mind, where folks would be forced to use some of their vacation instead of sick leave for those first sick absences. So it was necessary to make some progress on this, given the removal as well of first day sick, so that we didn't see a diminishment of the benefit here. And this is an area where we'll likely be pushing to make additional progress in the future and loosening the rules. I would say it's an unfortunately somewhat regressive policy to tie cash out to this usage of sick leave. And it's something that Sema pushed to get taken out entirely. We were able to make progress on it, but not remove it entirely. This is something we'll likely continue to push on in future negotiations to have a further loosening here. And it's something that, with a good partner on the other side of the table, we can hopefully get recognition. This isn't actually a cost to the county because that money is effectively already spent as soon as the time is accrued. So it doesn't have any real cost to the county to cash out, which you'll find varying degrees of support on the other side of the table, depending on who's there.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So thank you for that synopsis, Adam. As he mentioned, in brief, you now it's easier to access that time. It's less complicated to figure out if you can access that time. And you get the 40 or the 80 hours, regardless of sick leave you used, as long as it's less, 24 hours or less. So just simpler to administer and simpler to understand. Administrative leave. The county will supply the union with before I get into this, I want to make clear, here we're trying, and it's unfortunate that both have the word administrative in it. We're trying to draw a much brighter line between administrative leave and administrative time off. Many members use these terms interchangeably, and they are not. Administrative leave is when someone is out pending an investigation, pending a fitness for duty examination, some more unusual circumstance that requires them to be out on admin leave for some reason that is not typical. Administrative time off is much more common and is granted to individuals for whatever reason, because you're a salaried employee, because you did great work on a particular project, because you put in some excess hours, whatever. And you don't even need to have met those criteria, which we'll get to in a moment. So admin leave is a little bit different. The county will supply the union with a list of represented employees who are on administrative leave on a monthly basis. The list will include the type of administrative leave and current status. The list will be supplied via email to SEMA notifications at sccema.org. B, the county will make a reasonable efforts to limit the length of time that employees are placed on paid administrative leave to 26 pay periods or less. The county and the union recognize there may be circumstances warranting paid administrative leave for a period of time greater than 26 pay periods. Such circumstances include, but are not limited to, equal opportunity department investigation, fitness for duty, law enforcement investigation, adjudication of civil or criminal trials or investigations involving outside agencies, such as EEOC or DFEH. Those are discrimination investigatory agencies. The appointing authority or designee may use an extra help assignment or a work out of class assignment to perform the work of the employee or employees placed on paid administrative leave. If such an assignment is made, it should be made in compliance with MOA Article 12 or Ordinance Section A25-188. That's a reference to the merit system. Employees subject to so-called POBAR of 1974 are excluded from this section. So the reason for this new language is that we had experienced employees, and we still are, employees that have been placed on administrative leave in excess of a year. And the most extreme circumstance I've ever seen was 3.5 years. And it was a member who was out pending investigation. For those of you on the phone, you can't see my air quotes here. And what's just ridiculous about that is we had gone with this member, it's a member from the hospital. I had represented the individual 3 times in investigatory meetings in the first year of that leave. Then from our perspective, the county was sitting on its hands. I was contacting the county weekly saying, where are we at? And copying the member. This member is eager to return to work. What's the status? Pending, pending, pending. After about a year of that, after the first year, so 2 years in full, this member just said, forget it. Stop asking them. I'm fine getting my check. I don't know what the person was doing, you know, during the day. But like, that's absolutely not what we want to be encouraging. It's a waste of public funds. It sends a terrible message to our member. And for any of you who have been out on admin leave or know someone who's out on admin leave, the longer it goes, from my perspective, the more their reputation is damaged, right? So if I vanished for a year pending an investigation, people would just think, wow, he must have done something horrible to be gone this long. Like, why is it taking them so long to untangle this web of what's going on? And it really damages the person. So we really want to make sure that this is front and center. Politically, we're jumping up and down to make sure the person is returning as quickly as possible. From a legal perspective, there is no injury. The reason being that they're being paid their full salary and full benefits during this period of time. We've adjudicated this before. Many unions have, OE3 is no exception. We've filed grievances. We've gone to arbitration. We've appeared before Public Employee Relations Board, which adjudicates all union disputes. And they've held, if the employer's paying you, there's no harm. This affects about a dozen SEMA members a year. So it's not a huge population, but for those folks that are out on it, it's very critical.
Yeah, and this is something where it happens to very few people, but working in the public sector for even a few years, almost everyone knows of a story about this or knows someone personally that's been in this situation. And you unfortunately, like Zeb's saying, get that kind of ignominious reputation. And on return to work, frankly, often the individual just kind of ends up as a bit of a pariah. So it's absolutely not something that is a benefit to the employee. It might look nice to be on paid leave for 3 years, but it's definitely extremely stressful for the individuals involved. And the unfortunate frequency that I think SEMA has seen has been the number of people that are out on leave for that lengthy period of time and then return without even any recommendation of discipline or anything along those lines. It might be somewhat understandable if it was an extremely difficult situation to untangle. But when the person is returned to work and there's a perspective of no harm, no foul, well, there has been significant harm to the member, even if the person is returned without any discipline. And just because of the circumstances, that individual is never going to be allowed to speak about it in the workplace. The entire investigatory process is confidential. And unfortunately, that cloud of confidentiality means that rumors will often spread and you'll have that negative reputation regardless. It's absolutely why we want to stop this. And like Zeb said, there's usually a few Sema members kind of in this situation at any one given time with that year plus administrative leave going on. So if this is something that's happens to you, absolutely Sema will jump up and down about it. We're happy that we've been able to put these kind of guardrails on the process right now. But frankly, that's what it is. It's not strict. It's some guardrails and an additional ability for us to try to ensure this harm doesn't proliferate.
Yep. And before I move to the next section, I just want to cover a couple questions that were asked. Kimberly Dezotko, I hope I'm saying your last name right, asked, is the family care language changed? Adam answered, no, it is not. It's the same language. So I hope that's clear for everybody. And Vani Kota asked, can you please speak about the emergency sick leave for COVID-19? I want to make sure I'm speaking on the correct issue. Are you talking about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, that 80 hours, the 2 weeks that are granted off? Is that what you're referring to? Please answer yes or no in the yes. Okay. So I can speak to that. So everybody on this call, everybody in the country, right, that is employed, there's this thing called FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act, that was passed, and it sets aside an 80-hour bank that any employee may use for their, I believe, 9 eligible reasons. In fact, I can find the labor link and post it later on in this presentation, and you just have to look at what those eligible reasons are. They're extremely broad. You're awaiting an appointment to see a doctor because you think you have COVID-19. Somebody in your family requires care, or yourself are sick, with or without COVID-19. It doesn't have to be COVID-19. You require child or elder care because school's canceled and your kids are not. So there's a lot of qualifying reasons. That allows you to use an additional 80 hours to address the COVID, whatever it is that's related to COVID-19, and the employer pays you for that period of time. So that's been the practice of Santa Clara County to pay. We also represent members at the Superior Court. They're also paying at face value for that time. The statute requires them to pay up to $200. I see a clarifying question. I don't understand.
I think that's asking, even if you are not positive for COVID-19, yes. So yes. It's not required that you be positive for COVID-19. This could be, like Zip saying, for example, for childcare reasons, elder care reasons tied to COVID-19. You have to care for someone else, for example. That all those reasons are qualifying. So it's not only if you've tested positive.
That's right. And many areas of the county, as well as the court, have worked with Adam, Rebecca, and I to negotiate integrated usage. So you might say, I need to take 4 hours a day for more than 2 weeks, right? So then it would be over 4 weeks for childcare reasons, elder care reasons, whatever it might be. And the county has generally been good at integrating that. So we've done that on a case-by-case basis. I want to be clear, they are not required to allow that, but they have been pretty good about it. And to William's point, yes, you may have to provide documentation if the county requires it. Largely, they have been, but there have been cases where they have not. So, and usually what's been sufficient is like, my kid's school was canceled, and they just accept that, right? But sometimes they may require additional documentation. Yes, to your question, Christina, Missy, Christina Egan, yes, if it's beyond 2 weeks of pay, then you integrate it into your other time. You can use sick, and then you can use vacation. There's another question. This is sort of a nuanced question. How about caring for family members that are not local? I would not, so this is advice, and I'm hesitant to even say this because I know this is being recorded. If you have to provide care for somebody, the act doesn't specify that they have to be local or not. I just wouldn't volunteer that information. My family member is sick. I'm activating this portion of the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, and I need to take care of my family member. I don't know that it's anybody's business that they live 3 counties away or whatever the issue was. And as I mentioned, when Adam takes the shift rotation section, I'll go look at this and post the link so you can actually see the qualifying reasons that are extremely broad, and it's beyond just you personally or family member having COVID. Okay, administrative time off, also known as
sorry,
ATO.
Zeb. Sorry, Zeb. I did have a question that was privately sent to me. What if, how about caring for family members who are not local?
Yes. So I maybe you hadn't heard that, Lawrence. I just addressed that. You can activate it that way. I would recommend that you not advertise that individual is not local.
Sorry.
Nope,
Thank you, Zeb.
Quite all right. Okay. At ATO, or Administrative Time Off, and FLSA. FLSA stands for Fair Labor Standards Act, that you'll see in a moment. Most SEMA represented employees are designated by the county as exempt. Think salaried when we say exempt. Employees under FLSA. Employees who are designated as exempt are salaried employees who are expected to work the number of hours necessary to fulfill the duties of the position without overtime pay. Depending on the circumstances, employees may work more or less than 40 hours in any particular week. I know that statement is a hot button topic. Most of us are probably working more than 40 hours. Some of us are working exactly 40 hours, like clockwork. And some of us are probably working a little bit less than 40, or no, some of us are working less than 40 hours because that's what our survey responses indicate. ATO defined. Recognizing the above, FLSA exempt employees may be granted ATO without charge to any leave bank. ATO may be granted regardless of hours worked from their regular schedule. So this is key. Many people have historically thought, SEMA members, managers, etc., that you have to work XX hours in order to get ATO. Not accurate. This inclusion in the contract right here is an attempt to take that old memo from Luke Leong in 2005 that used to be attached at the end of the contract and actually integrate it into the contract to make it a little bit clearer. Also, for those of you that have been around for a long time, we've seen everything from don't even ask for administrative time off. We're not granting it here. This makes clear that blanket denials are not allowed, right? I've also, the most extreme example is the so-called SEMA 30. I have no idea where this came from, but it's just that every day that goes by, every SEMA member accrues 30 minutes of time to be used as ATO. That also doesn't exist, okay? And then people are just like, oh, I'm taking my 4 hours of SEMA 30 on Friday so I can knock off for, no, I don't know where that came from. That doesn't exist either, right? So this is clarifying that. ATO requests. An employee may request ATO for any purpose without the necessity to state a reason. Just like sick leave, just like vacation, typically do not state the reason, right? I've got some personal business I need to take care of Friday afternoon. I'd like to take off 2 hours early. Please approve that, right? They don't need to know that it's your anniversary or that it's your kid's soccer game or whatever, right? It just brings some other judgments into it. ATO is typically, employees shall request ATO in advance when possible. You want to give them a little bit of notice. ATO is typically in increments of less than 1 day. For a full day's absence under ATO, an executive manager's approval is required. The county should not deny an individual request for ATO absent a legitimate business reason. The county may temporarily issue a blanket ATO usage denial for a legitimate business reason. So examples of this: fire, earthquake, COVID-19, right? We're not granting ATO right now. And for those of you joining in from the assessor's office, it's the roll close. All hands on deck. We've got to close this thing out. We're not having ATO during this period of time. Oftentimes what happens is when departments, and this is through experience, ROV may be joining during an election. There might be a blackout for a particular period of time. In my experience, the department then has a flurry of ATO grants once that period has passed, right? That roll close, fantasy of lights at the parks, whatever it might be, then there's a flurry of activity. So this section 14.4 replaces the old Luke Leong memo. And here are sort of the key takeaways that I hope everyone on this recognizes, this call recognizes. This enshrines your right to ask. It does not require management to grant. It also prohibits management from making typical blanket denials. And it clarifies that you do not need to work excess hours in order to be eligible for ATO. So those were the goals that we were trying to achieve. And we actually had significant thought about this. Did we want to follow in our court brother and sisters footsteps, where they just said, we're not dealing with this, everyone gets 32 hours of management leave, and we don't have to arm wrestle with the boss over who gets this or not? We decided in our unit, no, the county does not want to follow in the court's footsteps. We want to have the flexibility to have more than those 32 hours because some people work more, justify more, or are currently getting more, right? And we didn't want to imperil that. Anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, I would suggest, we have a lot of folks, I'm sure, on the call who are Sema managers who themselves have to approve and deny requests for ATO for their Sema employees who are also members. Like Zeb's saying, when you have a situation where you have a reason to deny ATO, what we would recommend is it would be a good practice to follow up and clarify, since the member shouldn't be giving you a reason why they need ATO. If you have to deny, ask, is this something that would qualify you for sick leave usage that you need to take it off? Were you actually asking, for a dentist appointment or something? Be good to open that door so the member knows that if it's for a sick leave reason, they absolutely can then say, hey, I need to take some sick time off for whatever this issue may be.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Could you take the next section, Adam, and then I'm going to look up that labor and post it so that people can.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions about ATO though before we move on to the next
sure,
one.
sorry.
There's a question saying they're having us track our hours now. Can that be used to ask for ATO?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can definitely be used to ask for it. It's not, you're not obligated to receive ATO on any ratio for the number of extra hours you're putting in. Though, like I mentioned previously, Sema is also making a push to get a ATO grant as a result of all the extra work that folks are putting in as DSWs or essential workers and working the EOC during this time period. So it's great that folks are tracking their hours right now.
And also, we've seen, and I'm sure there are more questions. We've seen things as formal as, I see there are a few people here who are on the call that were in the EPIC implementation over at the hospital when Obamacare went live. If you recollect that agreement that we negotiated, it was worded as heavy consideration will be given for excess hours worked. And what literally happened is everybody kept the spreadsheet of the excess hours that they worked. And as they were granted ATO, that spreadsheet was drawn down until it was zero. So that's an unusual example of a real hour for hour heavy consideration. It was not, they weren't obligated to give you exactly that number of hours. As a practical matter, they did, right? That's
so the suggestion is that they do track their hours.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I would suggest that you do track your excess hours, which plays into the earlier question that somebody asked, will I be getting a PTO or ATO grant? It is not a right, but we believe that we'll be able to secure it for individuals, assuming that your claim is bona fide, right? If you say
how do they know? How do they know how many hours are available in their ATO bank?
So there's no such thing as an ATO bank. ATO is a theoretically unlimited pot of time you can take off. Part of the theoretical kind of underpinning for why we have ATO, I don't think we addressed, is that almost everyone in Sema is a salaried employee, right? We know from our surveys that the majority of Sema members are putting in some substantial number more than 40 hours on a given week. And this is a mechanism by which folks can be given time off from an unbanked leave status, kind of to account for that work. That's not the specific definition in the contract. This is a benefit that's available even if you're working 40 hours or less than 40 hours. But as far as the practical implementation, those factors are often taken into consideration when ATO is being requested and granted. It's a recognition that we as a unit, by and large, do not receive overtime. We put in a lot of work, and this is a benefit and a mechanism by which we can be treated as the salaried employees that we are. So
That's right.
it doesn't have a bank. You can take an unlimited amount. I wouldn't expect to request the next year off for ATO though and have it granted, even though it's unlimited.
Now, earlier you talked about the difference between ATO and admin leave, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay, so on their check stub, the description under hours and earnings, they're saying ATO hours used should read administrative leave, but that's not correct. Is that true?
Sorry, so is the question how it's tracked in payroll and what it shows up on your paycheck?
So the question is, regarding ATO hours used, what should the hours and earnings description read on my pay stub? Administrative leave, correct?
So I frankly don't
Yeah.
know how it appears on somebody's paycheck. I'd rely on a member who has used administrative leave to alert me or the union as to what it appears as. The reason being that payroll changes the descriptions from time to time of different leave usages, and I don't know what the current state of it is.
Okay, so Angela, who asked the question, says that it does read admin leave when she uses ATO. So if that's incorrect, we can get back to her, but
I don't
if
believe
that's
that's
everyone's
incorrect.
experience. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question, Angela.
Sure. Anything else before we move on to shift rotation? Okay, and I just want to highlight then on this part of ATO.
There is one more question.
Okay,
Can ATO be used during the stay-at-home order period?
you can ask for it. However, it's an extremely reasonable response for the county to say we are not approving it during the COVID-19 crisis. So you may request it, you may use it, but I would be surprised if your department approved it. Maybe you're working in an area where it makes sense that it's not essential, but typically the people who are working right now are considered essential workers. So yes, but I guess is the answer to that. Okay.
And
And
I
then
think
I wanted to highlight that with ATO, as Adam pointed out, many of you are Sema members that can be requesting ATO from your upline and granting it for subordinate Sema employees. So please take these guidelines to heart. The spirit of it is we're trying to grant people ATO when possible. Of course, we don't want it to be abusive or fall into the gift of public funds category or anything of that nature. Also, another key takeaway, less than 4 hours, your immediate supervisor can approve it. More than 4 hours equals an executive manager has to approve it.
okay.
Marilyn had a question here about can ATO be requested after it's already taken effectively? So can someone come into work late and then say the time was requested as ATO? No, you can set a department practice, Marilyn, that ATO should be requested in advance, and the language supports that. It says whenever possible. So if there's a good reason why it was impossible to make that request earlier, you'd still like to grant it. That would of course be good management practice and supportive of your folks. But as with all leave statuses, it's appropriate to request the time in advance.
Yep, that's correct. And also I would hasten to add this involves other language that is primarily dealing with salaried employment. If someone comes in late, let's say it's an hour late or half an hour late and says, hey, I want to use my admin leave, as Adam just said, probably not appropriate. You should typically do that in advance. But also, as long as that's not a habit, you're salaried employees. You should be able to just come in late for reasons, right? You worked late last night. You don't have an appointment until 9 or 10 or whatever the item might be. It becomes an issue, obviously, if performance isn't there or if you're blowing off client meetings or something like that, right? Then it becomes an issue. But otherwise, it should not be an issue, barring other things like I just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Did you have anything else? Any other questions on that, Rebecca, or we're clear to move on?
No, that was the last one.
Okay.
So we're looking at Article 4, shift rotation now. This is a brief section. For employees in this unit who are assigned shift work, the matter of shift rotation is a proper subject for discussion with their manager. If the manner in which shifts are assigned is not agreeable to a majority of Sema employees, or if Sema requests, a meeting shall be held with an executive level manager of that area. If, following this meeting, issues still remain for discussion, upon request, Sema may meet with the appropriate department/agency head and the Department of Labor Relations. The department/agency head will make the final decision on all unresolved issues. So this applies definitely to a minority of members that we have in Sema. When we're talking about shift rotation, we're not necessarily talking about any unit that has variable schedules, but we're talking about shifts, which would be I work day shift, I work swing shift, I work evening shift, I work night shift. And we have some areas, for example, in public safety and justice, where there's a rotation of shifts amongst our various members. So a corner case section, but it gives us the right to, if we want to talk about how this shift rotation is done, that it gives us a mechanism to talk about it, even when the county is not saying, hey, we're going to implement a change. Sema and all union members already have the ability to have a meeting like this called a meet and confer whenever the county is proposing changes to a schedule or how shifts are rotated or how weekends are assigned, anything like that. But that's normally the trigger point where we'd have the ability to have a meeting like this would be when there are proposed changes. What this does is give us the ability to, where there's a shift rotation, if for some reason it's become unequitable or there's a concern, we have a mechanism to have a discussion here and try and get it changed to a more equitable or preferred fashion for our members.
Great. And I posted the link there in chat, and you should be able to access that document from the Department of Labor website. You'll see as well that there are 6 qualifying reasons as well as 1 catch-all reason. So you can look at that on the link there.
Move on to the next article if there's no questions about shift rotation.
One individual said, can you move the document? I'm not sure what you were referring to. This is from Zarmina Godleski. Was this referring to the share screen or something we posted in chat? You can
everyone see shift rotation Article 4 right now?
The section Adam is covering in the document.
Yeah,
okay.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it. Great. Is it not, it's not available? Some people are having trouble seeing it.
Now we can see insurance premiums.
Now I see it. Okay. So insurance premiums, Article 5 should be displaying for everyone to see. It's showing up great on my screen, but so please alert us if there's some kind of problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're looking at Article 5 insurance premiums now. This was a section that had some substantial changes that we'll outline before we start going through the details. This is something for members who were following the bargaining process. This section went through a number of changes over the course of the bargaining process and ended up with something that we're actually quite happy with. And to be honest, while this was a county proposal, by the end it looked like something that Sema absolutely could have proposed as a benefit to our members. That's just kind of the way things shook out after the long bargaining process. The main changes that we'll see going through here are that in Sema's previous contract, our benefits premiums were tied to any possible increases. We would pay 10% of any increase. What we see now is that there are flat rates written into the contract. What that means is that the rates that we'll be covering don't have any mechanism for automatically increasing over the course of the contract. If the county wants to increase these numbers, they'll need to wait for the next period where the contract's open, for 4 odd years away from now. And Sema will have the ability to say no at that time to any increases, or more likely to try to exchange those for some greater benefit elsewhere in the bargaining process, as any increases are often moderate in sections like these. So with that, let's go ahead and read through some of the language. So we have section 5.1, medical insurance. The county and covered employees shall share in the cost of medical plan premiums. The county, in order to provide one health plan where there is not premium sharing, shall continue to offer Valley Health Plan without premium sharing. So this was something that was not in the county's first proposal, where there was initially a desire to have to no longer have free to employee healthcare plans. The county initially had the perspective that no cost healthcare for employees was going to be a thing of the past. Thankfully, that's something that we were able to push back on and maintain in here as a benefit for members. Additionally, likely as a benefit for Valley Health Plan, I think we would reasonably expect to see a lot of members flee the county's health plan if it went from being free to being one of the more expensive plans, which is what was initially proposed. Moving on. The employee share per pay period shall be as follows. Valley Health Plan, $0 for employee, $0 for employee and adult, $0 for employee and children, and 0 for family. HMO, currently Kaiser, is $673 is the cost of the medical plan premium for employee only. $1212 is the cost of the medical plan premium for employee and children. $1414 is the cost for employee and adult, and $1952 is the cost of the medical plan for a family. So this was the only what I would characterize as a takeaway that we had in this section. Previously, single person Kaiser was free to employee the way VHP is currently. And in the language now, it has a modest cost of $6.73. Moving on. Point of service, currently HealthNet, is $12.85 for the cost of the plan for single, and $27.21 for the cost for the premium for the family. So we can see here is if we compare to the previous contract, the cost of the premiums for everything other than single person Kaiser was almost cut in half. The reason for that is that historically Sema has paid on the significant upper end in the county what we were paying for benefits. The county coming into this bargaining session had a desire to homogenize what everyone's paying for benefits so that the county's benefits department doesn't need to track for 17 different contracts across the county. There's an ease of administration if everyone's on the same plan. That was a push that the county made for everyone. And in the initial push, the ask was to have it tied to 2% of the plan premium cost. And that's what the initial versions of this looked like. After the bargaining process, we're able to do is get this rather than be 2%, which would have built-in elevator language, right? If it's 2% and the cost goes up, then your 2% is going to go up. Instead, this was basically a check on what is 2% as of today, and then we write that number into the contract, which takes out the automatic elevator. Unfortunately, from the county's perspective, this was not something they were able to get in other contracts, especially those where the medical cost premiums were already lower. So that kind of end result here is that Sema was able to benefit by significantly reducing the costs that we had here, even though the county wasn't able to benefit by homogenizing for ease of administration. So we're pleased with the result here. I hope folks are as well. Moving on.
And yeah, just so everybody is aware, it absolutely represents a unit-wide savings, as Adam pointed out, for folks in almost every tier of the healthcare package. So while as he stated, while this was a county proposal, the way that it ended up morphing over the course of negotiations, it ended up looking like we proposed a reduction. But so it's a benefit to the unit.
Yeah, absolutely. For county employees occupying permanent part-time positions who work a minimum of 40 hours per pay period, be about 20 hours a week, right? The county will pay a prorated portion of the medical plan premiums described above based on the covered worker's standard hours. The HMO plan design shall be, thereafter it follows the numbers for copays, etc. And then it lists them out for the point of service plan as well for HealthNet. Moving on, hearing aid coverage shall be continued in all health plans. Effective June 23, 2014, the county will pay the total premium for the employee-only premium while on medical, maternity, or industrial injury leave of absence up to 13 pay periods. Upon request, the parties agreed to meet to discuss the possibility of modifying VHP into 2 separate plan designs. No change to the plan designs listed above may occur except by mutual agreement of the parties. What this last paragraph here in this section likely describes is that VHP is currently paying quite a bit for their grandfathered members for PAMF, and that's a significant cost to VHP. It's possible that in the future they'll want to split VHP up into two separate plans, one which retains access to the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and one which doesn't. It's not something we've been approached about yet. My understanding is VHP recently renegotiated their agreement with PAMF, and so for the time being, the county hasn't triggered this section. High deductible health plan. The parties agree to investigate the feasibility of adding, by mutual agreement, a high deductible health plan with or without health savings account or health reimbursement account as an add-on option to current health plans. That's not something we're currently triggering. Section 5.2, dental insurance. The county agrees to contribute the amount of the current monthly insurance premium. I see my chat's flashing here a lot. Would it be good to answer any questions before we move on? Has there been anything coming up?
I think you're good to go one more section, then we can take some questions.
Okay. The county agrees to contribute the amount of the current monthly insurance premium for dental coverage to cover the employee and full dependents contribution. The existing Delta Dental Plan coverage will be continued in accordance with the following schedule: basic and prosthodontics, orthodontics, and it lists the amounts. The county will pick up inflationary costs for the term of the agreement. The county will continue to provide an alternative dental plan. The current alternative dental plan is Liberty Dental. The county will contribute up to the same dollar amount to this alternative dental plan premium as is paid to the Delta Dental Plan. This is the section that sets forward the dental benefits that members receive. This section didn't have any changes from the previous contract. Section 5.3, life insurance. The county agrees to provide the same basic group life insurance plan for the term of the agreement as is provided under agreements with other bargaining units. The present policy is $50,000 per employee. Fairly straightforward section, no changes from the previous contract. Section 5.4 is our vision care plan. The county agrees to provide a vision care plan for all employees and dependents. The plan will be VSP, Vision Service Plan, Plan A, with benefits at 12, 12, 24-month intervals, with a $20 deductible for examinations and a $20 deductible for materials. The county will fully pay the monthly premium for employee and dependents and pick up the inflationary cost during the term of the agreement. VSP is definitely a great plan to be a part of. This is a fairly rich benefit for members, and there's no changes here. As someone who spends a lot of money on glasses, VSP is one of the better ones you can be a part of there.
So
Section
Adam,
5.5.
before you hit
Yeah.
the retiree benefits, there is a question
Okay.
about active employees. The question from On2 is, for an employee who has to go on medical leave, let's say 6 months, and does not have any accrued sick leave and or STO, will the county still pay for the medical premium?
Yeah. So once an employee gets in the situation where they no longer have any paid status, no, the practice in Santa Clara is that they will not pick up that cost for the employee. That would be a cost that you would either have to pick up, or you would then qualify for COBRA if you'd lost your benefits through the county. So on long-term unpaid statuses, you can be required to pick up that cost. That's, in my experience, that varies from employer to employer. Some places they'll keep the cost in advance and hit you hard on your first paycheck when you get back. That's not the benefits department's practice here, though.
And I want to make sure that all the listeners are very clear on that point. The key there in Adam's statement was unpaid leave, right? So in On2's question, it's not clear. You said you have to go on medical leave. If it was a workplace injury and you're somehow being paid by workers' compensation or something of that nature, then workers' compensation is now paying you, and that's paying your benefit. Right. Okay. And it's clarifying not work comp. So yeah, then Adam's unpaid, then you are responsible for picking up the benefit tab.
Mm-hmm. Though if you are any paid status, you'll just continue to pay the premiums, and the county will pick up their portion as normal, as long as you're on a paid status. And just to kind of tie back in, that's for example a particular reason why it's a benefit to have a significant bank of accrued sick leave. And if someone's returning after a reinstatement, we saw that language previously where you can buy back some of that sick time that you may have cashed out or lost when you left. That could be part of the reason why that's a benefit. This is a situation folks could theoretically be in if we're looking at layoffs down the line. There's a benefit to having that paid status, part of which is so that your benefits will continue while you're on a long-term leave.
And it's a good question, and on you're providing a good explanation here. The reason you ask is we should keep the accrual in the bank instead of cashing out. So remember, that may be your decision, but remember, you're cashing out STO. You are not cashing out sick leave. So you cannot cash out sick leave unless you leave the employer, right? So your sick leave will always be building up, but you can draw down your STO. And so perhaps that's your point. Maybe we need to be contemplative about drawing down our STO. We shouldn't just do it willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Section 5.5, countywide benefits. The parties agree that during the term of this agreement, countywide changes in benefits such as medical, dental, life insurance, vacation, sick leave, holidays, or retirement shall be applied to employees in this unit. This isn't something I've experienced in my time here, Zeb. Have you ever seen the county trigger this section for any particular changes in your time here?
Yes. It didn't go through, but if you recollect, about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago, there was talk of changing away from HealthNet, which was named in, I don't believe it was named in our contract. It was named in the physician's contract, and it was named in the SEIU's contract. What this is saying is that we have the level of benefit defined. We do not have the provider defined. So if we switched, for example, from Kaiser to some other HMO, I'm unaware of anyone that could meet those requirements, but let's pretend there were, that would be allowed under this language. And actually that's the law. So if an employer has 50% plus one of bargaining unit or employees agree to switch from one carrier to another, they can implement that countywide. So this is just stating that could occur. So there was talk about that 3 or 4 years ago, Adam. It didn't end up going anywhere. Could in the future.
Okay. And just to clarify for members, so this is not a section by which the county is able to just make changes to the wider benefits or leave section or anything like that. We'll see down the line there's a specific request the county's made to reopen sections, but if the county wants to change benefits during the course of the contract, they'll need a section like that where there's reopener language, and we'll see an example of that shortly.
Is there any technical difference between sick leave and STO?
Many.
Yes, they're not the same thing. So STO is what folks will be used to from the private sector, other employers as vacation effectively. Whereas sick leave is the traditional sick leave that folks are used to. The main difference that everyone needs to be aware of is that your STO, your vacation, is an accrued entitled, which means that whenever you separate employment, that value is worth cash. On the employer side, it means for them it's an outstanding liability. They have to keep the equivalent in cash sitting in a bank account somewhere at all times. To cover this big outlay of vacation that's sitting in everyone's banks. On the other hand, sick leave doesn't have any legal cash value. Sema has been able to bargain that payout ratio that we see that increases up to a possibility of 50% cash out. So those are the technical differences on the back end. On the front end, the difference is how that time can be used, right? So to use your STO, that's for prospectively requesting time off. You're requesting vacation. You'd have time off that you'd like to use. Whereas sick leave is something you can just say, I'm calling in sick. Please use my sick leave for this. I have a medical appointment I need to call in for. Please use my sick leave. You're not able to just dictate, for example, if Zeb's my boss and I call in and I have no sick leave, I can't require him to use my vacation. To cover that time period, whereas they're obligated to use your sick leave to cover that call in. So differences on the front end and the back end. On the back end, one has cash value and the other doesn't. On the front end, it's how that time can be accessed by the employee. Does it need to be requested in advance, or can it be used in response to a call out?
And Adam, for the next section, can I ask that you summarize ABC? We're just a little bit behind. We've got about 7 more pages to get through, and I know that there's going to be a lot of questions about the training fund license and the professional development.
Yeah, sure. So let's hit, I think, the important change for this section then, which is a little bit further down. So section 5.6 covers the current medical benefits for retirees. So there's 2 options that are available to county employees when they retire. You can get medical benefits through CalPERS if you're a member, or there's a somewhat richer benefit available by virtue of being a county employee. You make contributions to this through OPEB. Which we saw elsewhere was increased by $1.50 in this contract. So that $15 or so that you're paying per paycheck goes to fund this benefit for retirees and for yourself when you're a retiree. Part of the important context to know about this is that you have to leave the county in good standing in order to continue to qualify for the other post-employment benefits for the retiree medical. So someone who doesn't leave in good standing, who was terminated, could lose access to this benefit, though you would not lose access to any insurance through CalPERS. The possible change that we're going to have here is in section 5.7. The county requested that there be a reopener for the contract. Now, this is a strictly limited reopener only to talk about the possibility of changing retiree medical, and it's going to be coming in July of 2022, so that's the 3rd year of the contract. The county didn't say explicitly what they're going to have, just that they were doing some work on a different proposal for this section and that it wasn't complete yet. It's unlikely that we'll be looking at a significant request for a takeaway from the county, simply by the fact that they're requesting this come in the form of a reopener. Normally when the county has a desire for a takeaway, they're looking to remove something. A way to get the union to agree that is to balance it on one hand. On the other hand, here's the money that we've allocated for wage increases on the other hand. So without having something in the other hand, I think it's unlikely that we're looking at a significant takeaway. What we're likely looking at is more like a plan design along the forms of a pocketbook. We give employees X amount of dollars and you can go spend that money on a plan of your choice. Some of the problems we've seen with the current plan is that for folks who retire and move out of state, which is becoming more and more frequent as the cost of living here increases, it becomes difficult to retire here, that the current plan design just doesn't function that well for people who are leaving and, for example, just can't use Kaiser efficiently if you're living in Flagstaff, right? Something along those lines. Any particular questions on this section? If not, we'll jump forward.
And before we leave it, I just want to point out that we do have a retiree benefit committee that Sema is active on. I don't know, many of you may know, Ms. Peggy Tomaso has served on that committee for a long period of time representing Sema's interests. So if that's something that you're interested in, alert myself, Adam, or Rebecca, and we can include you on that committee as well.
Article 6, we have domestic partners. Registered domestic partners. County employees who have filed a declaration of registered domestic partnership in accordance with the provisions of Family Code 297 to 297.5 shall have the rights and shall be subject to the same responsibilities, obligations as are granted to and imposed upon spouses. The term spouse in this contract shall apply to registered domestic partners. Tax liability. Employees are solely responsible for paying any tax liability resulting from benefits provided as a result of their domestic partnership. So longstanding section in Sema's contract we have here that defines, right, domestic partner as everything that would you'd be entitled to under your spouse. So you could be looking at the bereavement leave section, benefit sections, etc. This is relevant when you're reading those sections that your domestic partner counts as a spouse in those sections. Article 7, state disability. You want to take this one, Zeb?
Sure.
Okay.
So the county and Sema agree as follows regarding coverage of the supervisory administrative unit. by the state disability insurance plan, commonly known as SDI. You often hear people say SDI. The county will continue registration of the supervisory administrative unit with the Director of Employment Development Department for purposes of SDI coverage for represented employees. The Controller's Office shall withhold wage earner contributions each pay period at the rate set pursuant to the Unemployment Insurance Code and forward the funds to the State Disability Fund. You're going to see this represented on your check. So what you'll see is you'll see that individuals will have a particular deduction being made, and that will cause them. So you see it represented on your pay stub. You'll see it actually listed as SDI. And then, okay, following. The date and disability illness commenced, the estimated duration of the disability, a phone number where the employee can be reached, the election of sick leave / scheduled time off usage during the first week of disability, whether or not the employee is planning to file for SDI, the election to integrate sick leave and scheduled time off with SDI benefits. So that way you're contacting the office and the county to provide that information if you need to claim it. This is often called, well, it is an insurance, right? So this is an insurance in case you are injured or cannot work fully. So D, an employee who's determined to be eligible to receive SDI benefits and who has made timely election to integrate shall be paid a biweekly amount, sick leave scheduled time, which is then added to the SDI benefits. And that's going to be approximately equal to your normal biweekly net pay. The reason that it always says approximately equal is there are always these roundings of fractions of a percent and so forth. And we want to make sure that it's not going to have any substantial impact, but it might be a cent off over the course of a full pay period. The employee will have the responsibility to notify the office designated by the county of any change in status, either in health or length of disability, that may affect your return for county employment. All that that's stating is that if there's some change, if you're cleared to work, you broke your leg, you're cleared, it healed a little bit faster, you've completed your admin, then your rehab rather, you need to alert the employee or the employer that you're going to be coming back a little bit earlier. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in on that. So let's move on to professional development and educational leave. So the important part here is that the admin or PD and educational development, these funds have been merged together to allow a greater draw, and the actual fund itself has been increased. So for those of you that have been longer term Sema members, you know that we 5+ years ago, we were never using the entirety of our professional development fund. Then we liberalized how you could access it, increased the amount of money that was available, and we started blowing through it halfway through every year. So we had very few people using it, and then now we have way more people wanting to use it than we have money for. So this was an effort to address both of those issues. So you'll see here, effective May 4th, 2020, the county will fund a tuition reimbursement program and a professional development program. The maximum county expenditures for these programs shall not exceed $350,000 per fiscal year during the term of this agreement. Oh, it just, hang on, oh, there it is. The amount will be rolled over from year to year during the term of the agreement. The county shall provide an accounting of the funds on a quarterly basis. It's convenient that we have Lawrence here. He's actually the PD chair, and Lawrence reviews these tuition reimbursements. In fact, he's looking into claiming some right now for our public events. And we send a request every year to roll unused funds over. In the past few years, there have not been unused funds to roll over, but this allows us to roll them over if there are. It's split broadly into two categories: tuition reimbursement and professional development. The key differences, I'm going to read the language, but the key differences are tuition reimbursement is at 100% value and professional development is at a 50% value for the employee. So if you lay out $1,000, oh, he moved in here. If you lay out $1,000, then For tuition reimbursement, it would be paid back at 100%. For professional development, it would be paid back at 50%, so 500 of your 1,000. Okay, tuition reimbursement. The training undertaken must be related to the employee's occupational area or have demonstrated value to the county. Total reimbursement shall be limited to $3,000 during the fiscal year 2015. If this is legacy language, the higher amount, however, is relevant. It's $3,000 instead of the $1,500. If authorized courses are only available during working hours, the employee must make up 25% of the time away from the job. All requests, regardless of their status, approved or denied by the supervisor, shall be forwarded within 10 business days to LED, that's Learning, Employment, and Development, for review. The county will notify Sema of the denied requests. Specifics of the program will be set by the Sema County Committee listed in section 8.2. Hey, Adam, could you keep reading this? There's something in the office I have to attend to. You're muted.
Thanks. So below are additional expenses eligible for reimbursement under this section, which must be professionally related in the employee's occupational area. So eligible we have here online courses, digital media courses, materials, digital print or professional journals, magazine subscriptions, and or books. So like Zeb was saying, and we'll discuss this before going to the next section. So there's a couple things that have changed in this section. The first one is that we were able to increase the overall cap by $150,000. So previously we were running out about 7 months into the year for the last couple years of the previous contract, which meant that if the conference that you need to attend just happens to fall at the latter half of the year, that this pot of money was often just empty when that time rolled around. However, in addition to increasing the cap, we've also increased the individual draw, which means that it's definitely a possibility. We're not sure that this could still run out before the end of the year. However, the county offered to increase this individual draw from $1,500 to $3,000 for each section. And that's a significant benefit to members if we weren't going to be using at that $350,000 level the full amount. It's effectively a doubling of the benefit for the individual member. That wasn't money that we wanted to leave on the table. Simultaneously, it's also going to be a priority for us over this contract to ensure that this is a benefit that everyone's able to access and that it's not running out before the end of the year again. So the first year through will be a trial for us. If we see that it runs out during that first year, we will be approaching the county to put a temporary lower cap on this, likely for the duration of the contract, at whatever the appropriate level is based on that year, so that we can be reasonably assured the money is going to last over the course of the year. So section 8.2 we have here then is the professional development program. Like Zeb's mentioned, the main difference here is that it's a 50-50 match as opposed to a full reimbursement. So section 8.2 we have, this fund shall cover group and individual programs of one annual individual professional membership or professional forum on a matching basis. The matching expenses shall, on a 50-50 basis for individual programs and a 25-75 for Sema County basis for group programs. The maximum draw per employee per fiscal year is limited to $3,000. All requests, regardless of their status, shall be forwarded within 10 business days to the Learning and Employee Development for review. The county will notify Sema of the denied requests. Individual and group programs are subject to approval by a county Sema committee, which administers the programs, including the selection of group programs and approval of programs selected by individuals. Okay, let's pause and take a look and see if we have any questions. Have you seen anything, Lawrence or Rebecca?
Yeah, Adam, it says, a member asks, it was mentioned earlier that application fees and exam fees are reimbursed sometimes and not other times. However, one has to pay first before applying to reimbursement. This means we will risk not being paid when we pay for the application and exam fee. Is there a better way?
Yeah, that's so the reason they wouldn't be paid, in my experience at least, would be because that money has run out. And you should be seeking prior approval from your department on this. So assuming it's been approved, there shouldn't be any reason that it's not going to be paid, other than that the funds have run out. So in increasing the amount, like I said, was a goal to make sure that these funds don't run out, and we have folks in that situation where they have an approved expense that is then just trying to draw on a dry well, right? So hopefully that won't be happening over the course of this contract with the increased amount. And like I referenced previously, if we see that the money continues to run out before the end of the year, then we'll take a look at whether we need to have a temporary lower cap on the individual draw, so that this is a benefit that everyone gets, and we don't have folks in that situation where you've been approved for something, paid for it, and then unable to get the reimbursement.
Adam, this is April. So just wanted to comment, I don't know if someone mentioned this already on the chat, but in the past, especially when finance took it over, if you submitted your request online, so I would always submit my request by December to avoid the runout issue. So if I submitted by December for, say, an April conference I was going to, going to be pricey, then they always earmark the money, and they told me, we have now earmarked it, you have been approved. So after you attend in 4 months, you can just submit your proof of attendance, and then we will reimburse you. Is that not the case anymore?
I actually don't know that particular detail, if you can earmark things ahead of time. Do you have experience with that, Zeb?
Yes. And in fact, that's one of the recommendations that we have. I apologize. There was something going on in the office I had to step away for. One of the things that we recommend is that if you know that a particular training, class, event that is eligible for any of these is going to be happening, it's advantageous to apply and lock down that funding as soon as it re-ups, so that you know then that even though the event might be in, let's say, October, you can lock it down as soon as that $350,000 bucket refreshes. So yes, you can lock it down in advance, and then that is debited. Please, please, please be responsible with that, because what it does is it denies that pot to other members. And if then you subsequently cancel that for whatever reason, you've freed up money that maybe now can't be reused by individuals that otherwise would fall in the process.
So Zeb, this is April again. That actually, I'm a fan of professional development. So that actually also is the case. I had applied for something, say in February. I had thought I was going to apply for early bird. I ended up not, so it ended up costing extra $50. And then the finance folks wrote to me and they said, actually, someone else canceled, so we now have additional money. We'll just pay out the full 50. And so even though I hadn't actually earmarked that much, I ended up getting it. So I don't know if that helps anybody. And then the last thing I would say is they also post on the website and they respond to emails instantly about how much is left. So if I'm looking at it in December, I'll email them and I'll say, can I wait till March, or does the trend look like it's almost out? And so I have, after that happened to me once, maybe 5 years ago, I have never gone through the process of waiting to submit it and then finding out it was denied. And so I think there is a variety, you know, maybe someone can put down a 5 bullet points of how to avoid that, because I've been successfully avoided it, and I think everyone can and should.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that, as we mentioned towards the beginning of the call, we're trying to add that Sema recommends section of non-operative contract language. So here's where we just have a tip saying, tip, as soon as you are aware of an event, try to lock down that funding so that it's not denied to you. And that may mean planning ahead, or it may even mean looking at events that are happening a little bit earlier in the year. And with experience, we're going to see how significant the draw is on that $350,000. We know that when the pot was half as much, not a little more than half. Previously, the pot was 200,000. We ended up running out at the end of a year. So we'll see with 350,000. Hopefully, we won't have that problem again. But a year or two into this, we'll have some experience with it and see if there's money left on the table or not. But thank you for that advice.
Yeah,
We have
last.
I have 3 pending questions.
Oh, sorry.
And I know we're short on time.
Thank you.
So I'll group these questions together. Are application fees and exam fees eligible to be reimbursed? Is it limited to online and digital media? And what's the difference between group versus individual programs?
Sure. So group programs include things like professional development events, right? Many of you have attended professional development events. There may be group trainings and so forth. That's administered by the union. And that's why there's that higher payback for those types of events. Everything else is individual. So anything that a member on this call would be accessing would be an individual expense. What was the earlier part of that question, Rebecca?
Are application fees and exam fees eligible? And does it include, is the reimbursement limited to only digital and online courses, or are in-person trainings covered?
In-person trainings are also allowed. And in fact, this was originally designed for in-person trainings. This was broadened. Those bullet points are broadened beyond what traditionally was allowed. And you can go on the LED website and see what's permitted. My advice is, if something is not covered, apply for it. The worst that they can say is no. And generally, we may even have some LED members on the call here that can type in. Generally, they are allowed to.
Yeah, and just to call attention, just to call attention to it. These were additional expenses that Sema wanted to include. So this isn't limiting. It's just a list of some additional things that we wanted to make sure. This isn't the exclusive list. Like Zeb said, initially, the intent for this was more for in-person, right, and for classes. But then it was broadened to include things like online courses, digital media courses, for example.
And Tung asks an excellent question. So to Tung Nguyen, she's saying, what happens if there are events that are occurring in the county banned states? My experience with this has been that they have been allowed if that's the only place that's occurring. So if there's continuing education credits that are offered federally or something and it's required, then the county has waived that. I have yet to see a case where there's been an argument that we need to go to this banned state and the county has said no, and then the person is unable to get their CEDs. Okay. Are we on to training fund now?
Yeah, that seems to be the last question for. And then there are some pending questions regarding the lump sum payment. But I think those should wait till the end because we have a lot to cover still.
Yep.
Okay. Article 9, Training Fund. The county has established a manager/supervisor program for the purpose of training all managerial and administrative professional staff. All Sema represented employees will have an opportunity to attend manager/supervisor program courses. The county has set aside $85,000 per fiscal year during the term of this agreement to conduct this training program for all Sema represented employees. The county shall maintain control of program design, and funds not expended shall be rolled over from year to year during the term of this agreement. Specifics of any program beyond the manager-supervisor program will be set by the Sema/County Committee listed in Section 8.2, Professional Development Program. The county shall provide an accounting of the funds on a semi-annual basis to Sema. The county agrees to meet no less than quarterly with the Sema Professional Development Committee to discuss input to the training program. So we have a section here again that has some purview of our Professional Development Committee, an additional benefit to members for regular courses to be put on under the discretion of the Sema Professional Development Committee. I see we got about 17 minutes left and we have a couple important sections left. So if we don't have any particular questions on this, we'll jump forward because we got some long sections still. Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Uniform allowance. So we'll go ahead and just summarize some of the changes on this because it's a fairly lengthy section as far as the actual language. So this was a section that had some improvements in it from the previous contract. Every dollar amount in here was increased by at least $50 for each section, whether you're being approved for the lower level uniform allowance or the higher level one. In addition, we have a particular carve out here for our supervising probation counselors. Unfortunately, with folks in that category, there's a couple areas where they're carved out for various reasons due to their FLSA status and their particular schedules. That group receives a voucher instead of a cash payment However, the value of the voucher was also increased. This is something that it's important to increase as time goes on, due to inflation, due to rising cost of uniforms, et cetera. So the important thing in here is that for our members, uniform has a somewhat strict definition here where it can't mean just a requirement to dress professionally, right? So if you're required to just generally wear a polo or a button-down shirt and slacks, that's not a uniform. However, if you're required to wear a specifically branded polo shirt and specific brand of khakis, for example, that would qualify for the lower level uniform tier. And then for the higher level, that's more applicable for folks like our park supervisors, where you have particular and specific requirements for the uniform that you need to be wearing. So it's a 2-tier benefit. Lower tier is generally going to be some kind of branded uniform. Higher one would be, my specific park supervisor uniform with epaulets and everything like that, as required by the county. And again, this is a requirement that the county has to set. If the county sets this requirement, then you are obligated to receive this money. Okay.
And
Any questions on the
one other quick point
Sure.
on that. If you're in a department that is contemplating uniforms, this has been going on for about 6 months and I haven't seen any further action, so this may be moot. The recorder clerk recorder's office has been contemplating that, as has 911 county comm, and it hasn't materialized. But so if you're a supervisor on the line, manager on the line from one of those departments, this is a benefit. Your employees would be able to be eligible for these vouchers for the uniform allowance. Again, it has to be required. Someone can't just decide, oh, I'm wearing the little logo. I paid for it to be sewn in on my shirt. Where's my uniform allowance? It has to be required.
Yeah. Okay. Article 11, federal, state, and/or county mandated licensure/certification fund. This was an important section for us. This was one of our top priorities going into negotiations, from kind of that, to be honest, lower level monetary impact. This doesn't cost the county a ton of money, but it does have a significant impact for our individual members who it affects. So it was a top priority to get some changes here. We'll read through it and then talk about the changes. Effective May 4th, 2020, the county shall provide up to 100% reimbursement to all Sema represented employees for the cost of federal, state, and/or county mandated licenses and/or certifications, excluding driver's licenses, that are required pursuant to the employment standards stated in the job specifications. So the important takeaway from this is that it needs to be, this needs to be something that's required either as a part of your job description, something that goes along with your job. For example, if you're a nurse, right? You have to have your RN license, and that's required at the federal level for anyone doing nursing work. Additionally, for example, if you're at VHP and you need your insurance broker's license, that could be something that's covered. Previously, this was covered, but there was a cap of about $25,000 that ran out usually before halfway through the year. And so we had folks who had, specific timelines where their licenses were renewed. For example, our pharmacists that often just fell at the end of the year, who weren't able to realize this benefit. Moving on to section 11.1, employees shall not lose any rights to this reimbursement due to reclassification or retitling of a classification, provided that the new classification continues to require federal, state, and/or county mandated licenses and/or certifications pursuant to the job specification employment standards. This has become somewhat historical language now due to the other changes that have come in this section. There is not a specific list of classifications anymore that qualify under this section, which means that regardless, there shouldn't be any reason that reclassification or retitling would cause you to lose the ability to get reimbursement in this section. If we change the classification of, we had a recent one, right? RN patient services case coordinators became case managers, still require an RN license for that classification. They are absolutely not limited out of this section for any reason. C, during the term of this agreement, should federal, state, and/or county legislation be passed mandating licensure for additional classifications represented by Sema, or modifying existing mandated licensure for any of the classes represented by Sema, the county and Sema shall meet and confer over their inclusion in this provision. So, right, if some new legislation passes that says, in addition to your basic life support certification, anyone working in a certain field now needs the advanced life support certification, you're automatically going to be included, and that will be eligible for reimbursement in this section. Again, the governing principle here is that we've been able to broaden this language in the opening section here, so that it simply applies to all federal, state, and/or county mandated licenses. Some of this language down below has become a little bit historic now because the section is so broad and applies to anything that's going to be required. D, the reimbursement shall apply to all employees and classifications represented by Sema effective May 4th, 2020, who are required by the federal, state, or county to pay required licensure certification fees, which are required pursuant to the employment standards stated in the job specification. Eligible employees may apply only for license certification reimbursement once per annum during this agreement. And this applies once per license and certification. So you can apply for your pharmacist license, once per go around here. One piece that folks may be aware of that we were looking for in the bargaining process that we didn't end up getting here was some degree of retroactivity for this section. Because the implementation coming on May 4th, we had folks kind of in between when the new contract could have been signed to May 4th that had licenses that weren't able to be reimbursed. That's not something we were able to get in this section. This became effective on May 4th. However, for anyone who had a license reimbursement close to that time drop off there, I'd absolutely recommend submitting that for reimbursement. Total reimbursement for each eligible employee will not exceed 100%. It's fairly straightforward. If your license cost $500, you can't apply for $550 worth of reimbursement for time and suffering from the study process. Section 11.2. Federal, state, and/or county mandated license and certification fee reimbursement. During the term of this agreement, all eligible employees whose federal, state, and/or county mandated licenses / certifications expire during the term of this agreement must present a receipt showing proof of payment and/or the renewed license certificate within 30 working days after the expiration of the license / certification to receive the reimbursement. So here's the restricting time frame that we're talking about for this section. It's 30 days. So you want to make sure that when your license expires, you put your request for reimbursement in promptly. And of course, everyone should be staying on top of their certifications, whether it's your pharmacist license, your MD, your RN. Everyone's familiar with this. You're usually renewing coming up on that time frame. B, requests for reimbursement are to be submitted on the form provided by the county. This is available. There's a form available on the intranet whereby you can submit this. Historically, like I said, folks have frequently gotten responses that this fund had run out. No one should be getting that response anymore. Whenever they fill this form out, you should be moving quickly through this process and getting reimbursed. If there's any difficulty with this section, absolutely reach out to your rep. We want to make sure that the transition here goes smoothly and everyone's able to be reimbursed for all of their licenses. Okay, any questions?
So something that I wanted to cover, and I understand was not discussed when I stepped away, is with all of these, with the license reimbursement, with the tuition development and professional development, primarily, actually, let me take that back. State license, it's totally appropriate. If it's required of your job, then the county needs to pay for it, right? And that's what the state licensure is there for, or the county mandated licensures or certifications. Do not allow your department to approach you and say, we really think that you should have this certification and we want you to use your professional development fund or your tuition reimbursement to attain it. If the employer is coming to you and asking you to get a certification, you should not use your personal benefit. That's up to the county, to the employer to provide that training. So I want to make sure that there's that clear line. And this has happened a lot before, which is why I'm mentioning it, is that you know, maybe your boss is well-meaning and doesn't realize that it's for your personal benefit, cruises by your desk and says, hey, we're really asking for people in the department to get this certification. I know you've got that Sema benefit. Go ahead and use it and sign up for that course next week or next month or whatever it is. I'll approve the time. That's great that they're making that gesture. Only do that if that's a course you were going to take anyway, right? Don't let them use your union negotiated benefit to cover an expense that the department should be paying for on your behalf. So I just want to make that point. Professional and tuition reimbursement is for what you want for your advancement of your career, not what the department wants. And I'm not sure that I see any questions rolling in about this section. So let me hop back to that. Can you share the link to the reimbursement request form? Yes, I can. It's at LED. You all are going to have access to it from the intranet. Adam and I only have access to it from the internet. But here, what I can do is I'll plop that link into the chat right now. As I'm mentioning, it will appear a little bit different for you all because you're going to be accessing it from the intranet. Any other questions that you see coming in, Lawrence? Rebecca had to bow out for another scheduled meeting.
Sorry, Zeb, let me try to catch up as well.
Yeah, we had a question that came in privately. I won't mention the individual's name, asking about folks that need to go into that rollover bank situation where you've been unable to take vacation due to the COVID pandemic and you're now in a non-accrual status, and asking if we need to do something individually for that member. So as of right now, there's no individual action that's required for any member to ensure that there's no loss there. The commitment we have right now from the county is that once payroll gets a little more breathing room from the implementation of all the contracts that have recently been signed, and the run up against COVID where they've had a lot of extra work to do, that they will go back and retroactively make a fix to ensure that folks don't have any loss due to over accruing or not being able to accrue during this time period. There's two ways the county could do that, and they haven't committed to doing one or the other yet. They could allow a temporary higher bank for folks until you draw down underneath it, or they could create a secondary bank and put the overflow amount in there. My understanding is the county's done both of those things in the past. We're not sure which one they're going to do here yet, but we've had a commitment from the county executive that will be addressed, and we'll hope to see it addressed somewhat soon. Though of course payroll is still quite busy. They're trying to cut all of our lump sum retro checks right now. So hopefully soon we'll see some steps taken to address this. As of right now, there's no individual action required that members need to take. However, I definitely recommend keeping track of each pay period that you are unable to accrue, so that you're able to double check whatever math payroll ends up doing on this to ensure you don't have a loss against your own records. So you know exactly how much you haven't accrued, and you can make sure that when it is restored, you see the appropriate amount.
Great. I just posted in chat there. You can go to that, and that's going to be the homepage of LED, or Learning and Employee Development. As you go to apply for something individual for you, they've actually really made this site much more usable. You log in with your information. As I mentioned, it's an intranet site. I can't log in with my information because I'm not a county employee. And it will say, to date, you've used this amount of money. You still have this remaining in your fund, and so forth. So you should be able to access it there. You have to use your credentials to get in, though. I see that there's a question from Maria Coe. Did we answer this? Oh, it's about the lump sum. And we do have just a couple moments left to talk about this. Quick clarification regarding the lump sum payment. All Sema members are scheduled to receive a one-time lump sum payment slated for pay period 6/15. Am I correct? Or are there any groups that are exempt from this payment? I just want to make sure. My understanding is that all members are receiving a type of lump sum depending on the salary tier they fall. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, you are correct. Everyone is receiving okay, let me be clear. Everyone who is a current employee during the time of implementation, so Sema will argue that anyone, let's pretend someone left a week from now we'd argue that they were still eligible for that lump sum because the original implementation date should have been now, right? Anyone who is an employee at this time until the actual implementation is eligible. If somebody resigned 2 months ago, then they're not eligible. If they do resign in 2 months, they still get it, right? So everybody is going to be getting some kind of a payment that's in a Sema represented code. So that's clear. What we have mentioned that are ineligible are Sema extra help or Sema linked classifications. We don't represent them. So if it's what was confidential employees, formerly called ACE, they may or may not get that. We don't know how the county's going to treat them. If it's Sema extra help people, probably they wouldn't, would be my guess. Again, we're not bargaining for those groups, so I can't say. But in people's mind, they think, oh, those are Sema classifications. From a contractual and representational perspective, they are not. So I hope that clarifies it. Everybody who's a full-time employed Sema member or Sema represented class will be getting a payment. Ideally on the 15th, it could be earlier than that. But
and that important date there that Zeb's mentioning, the implementation date is May 4th. So I know I've had a lot of folks reach out to me who are going to be retiring or transferring into a different code, likely sometime between May 4th and when we receive this. Those folks will still be entitled to receive this payment based on the contract language, though it might require you to reach out to either Zeb or myself or Rebecca. If you don't receive it when everyone else does, it's possible we'll have to make sure the contract is enforced on your behalf, but you will be entitled to it.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey guys, I see that we are.
So if you want to play us off, Lawrence, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry. I was just about to say we are out of time, but I wanted to be respectful of your time. I want to make sure that Zeb and Adam, are you both able to stay a little bit longer? Obviously, we're going over. In case there are more questions, obviously for those who have to leave, then please do so. But yeah, can you guys stay for just a couple minutes in case there are any more questions? Adam, is that?
I sure can. I can stay for about another 10 minutes, but I haven't seen any new questions come in, so maybe we're at a good.
Yeah, I haven't either, so maybe we're okay. Are there any other questions from anyone?
Yep.
No, I guess not. Zeb, Adam, do you guys have any last words you want to say?
I just want to thank everybody for your patience and activism. We did send out a notice earlier today clarifying the delay. While I'm not happy about the delay, I know people certainly want the lump sum as soon as possible. That delay is benefiting a lot of our brothers and sisters because they're getting a higher tier. So apologies for the delay. Everybody is still seeing that 3% pay increase and the 3% reduction in contribution to PERS. So you're seeing that now. And thank you for your participation and activism towards getting this great contract, especially in the light of COVID and the economic damage that's doing.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, thanks to everyone for joining in. And just to echo what Zeb said, it's some of our members in payroll who are doing all the work to cut these lump sum checks right now, including their own checks. So believe me, they're moving forward with all due haste to ensure they can get their lump sum as soon as possible too. So hopefully we see it prior to that June 15th date, but we'll be sure to keep folks updated based on what we're hearing. And again, thanks to everyone. Like Zeb said, it was really Sema members stood up in a way that they haven't ever before during this contract cycle, and we saw the results of that in this contract. We didn't get everything we were hoping to when we came into the beginning of negotiations, but unfortunately that's life, and we did get the best contract, quite fairly to say, of anybody in the county. So members should absolutely feel very proud of themselves for the work that they put in, as should the negotiating team for the great job they did advocating on behalf of members. So I think it's a result everyone can be proud of. And I want to make sure folks remember what this level of activism looked like, so that this is the kind of contract Sema can expect in the future as well.
Yep. So thank you, Lawrence and Robin,
Adam.
who are on the call, I know.
Yeah, I'd like to just take a moment to just thank you guys, Zeb and Adam. Thank you guys so much for really leading these sessions. It's really, and obviously just all your efforts to ensure that we have a great contract is definitely much appreciated. Well, I think Rebecca's already logged up, but did want to just shout out to her. Thank you for keeping track of our questions for us. So that's much appreciated. And for Robin, who's stuck with us as well. So thank you. But I do want to thank all of our members who are listening in, whether this is live or as a recording. As I mentioned before, we, the Sema Executive Board, the Sema Negotiating Team, and the Sema OE3 Business Reps, Zeb, Adam, and Rebecca, all serve at your pleasure. And it is because of your engagement, your involvement, your commitment, and your support that we were able to achieve the success with this contract. So for all those sheltering in place and working from home, thank you for helping to flatten the curve. For all those in the front lines, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all that you do. Everyone stay safe, healthy, and strong. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye all.